So now the next step is natal chart navigation. So hopefully you can see this screen of my chart. I just have to stop share and reshare because I just have to make sure the right thing's being shared. So this is essentially how it works. If you go get a reading or if you're in an astrology course or one of my classes, essentially what we're doing is translating what this means, these, images and shapes and these lines. We're translating what this means from the astrological language to English. So that's the first thing. So this is essentially like it is a language in itself because of all of you could say like all of these they're not letters, but the shapes, these symbols mean something. So I'll start over here. So your information will be at the top, and then it will say natal chart, the method, the house system, your sun sign, your ascendant, if you have your birth time, which is another word for rising. This is what I call the legend in English. So I feel like most people have an understanding of the 12 zodiac signs. You probably know maybe half of them because of like friends, family, all of that. Pop culture, like the different signs. Like if I say Aries or Scorpio, like most people have a general understanding. So this shows the little glyphs of the sun, moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, true node, descending node, Chiron, heart of fortune, Lilith. Now, depending on, because I have special chart settings, you might not have all these things down at the bottom here, but you will have the sun all the way to the Pluto for sure. And so if you're staring at this and you're like, I call the sun, it looks like a boob. And you're like, what's the boob? Oh, okay, sun. Sun is another word for your zodiac sign. So I was born in Gemini season, so my sun is in Gemini. And it tells me here, Gem. And then it ignored the number. We're not there yet. The moon crescent's pretty, oh, look, what is this moon? What is this thing that looks like a moon mean? Oh, it's my moon. Okay, my moon is in PIS, Pisces. Okay, the thing with the ear, this is the planet with the ears, that's Mercury. Okay, Mercury, TAUR, so it's Taurus. And this legend can help you kind of decode this, but you still might have no idea what these things mean, and that's okay. Just sort of navigating that the legend is here to help you. And then this little thing down here you can completely ignore until you're more of an intermediate. This is the bottom left, the aspects. So this is describing what all these lines mean, which is not important when you're a beginner. And then this little chart, the CFM, and then the FAEW, essentially just categorizes everything for you by element. So fire, air, earth, and water, and which I feel like is really easy to look at on the natal chart with the fire signs being red and the earth signs being green and the air being an orangey yellow and water being blue, which I feel like we all can kind of connect with pretty easily. And then the CFM means cardinal, fixed, mutable. So cardinal means that the zodiac sign starts off a season, like a nature season. So Aries is the beginning of spring. Fixed, it's the middle of a season. So Taurus is like the middle of spring. Mutable means we're changing seasons. So Gemini is spring into summer. So hopefully that makes sense. But that's what that means. This just gives you insight into like if you're like, oh, I have a lot of earth stuff. So and I have a lot of mutable. So you're like, okay, it just gives you like a focal point of like, okay, maybe I'm more earthy and I'm more changeable. You could have like nothing in one color. That's okay. It's just like information to kind of look at. But this kind of just these things over here kind of help categorize and explain what's going on in here. So how essentially you can look at this is you can first look at a planet. So any of these little shapes. So we'll just look at the moon because it's a moon crescent and it's easy to kind of understand what this is. So we would go moon and you're like, I don't know what this is. So I'm going to look to the legend. Okay, that's moon in Pisces. And then we go down here like, okay, number 9. So it's in the 9th house. House, you could say it's in the 9th pizza slice. It's in the 9th triangle, whatever helps you there. But again, none of this changes in the inside and none of this None of the stuff in there changes. Like this is your chart. But essentially, we have the planets inside the houses, and then we have our wheel of signs around. Now, if you pull up like your chart and your mom's chart, or your chart and your boyfriend's chart, or your chart versus like your brother's chart, the only thing that will be, in a sense, different, like the planets will be where they are depending on like that day of their birth and that year and everything. But mine starts here with Cancer. I'm a Cancer ascendant, Cancer rising. So I start off with blue at number one. Your chart could be, you could be born on like the same day as me, but instead of being born at 9 a.m., you were born at like 3 p.m. You'll have a similar planet layout, but you'll have a different sign and house number one, depending on the time. So like it almost looks like it switches, like it's like turns like a clock in a sense. So yeah, that's essentially how this works. So we have the zodiac signs on the outside of the wheel. We have the planets on the inside and the houses. It's a one, two, three. And it's not, I try to say, I used to think the houses were really confusing when I learned them, but they're not, I don't think, because they go in order, like what comes after one, two, and that goes all the way through 12. And none of this changes. And then all these lines in the middle are the aspects, which are essentially how the planets are talking to each other. Which you don't need to focus on, but that's what this are. It's like how this guy is talking to this guy, and then the colors mean something. So that's how you kind of navigate this. Um, and it's like there's a step-by-step process on how to do this. But if you want to get started, like figuring out what, and I say decoding, like translating what your natal chart means in English, the easiest way to do that is to literally go into Google and type in Sun Gemini. And then I would like look and be like, okay, here's my sun in Gemini, 12. And I type in Google Sun, Gemini, 12th house. And then for the moon, moon, Pisces, ninth house, type that in and do that for the whole legend on the left here. Or even just typing in like sun in Gemini, moon in Pisces, Mercury, Taurus, Venus in Gemini, Mars in Virgo, and just getting an understanding and taking notes that way for whatever yours says. And that's like the first step on kind of understanding some things. So I will see you in the next video.